My name is Tremmel, and this is Shiho Fukuhara. And we will try to tell you something about our project Biopresence, which is not really software in that sense as most of you think, or most of you do here. So our plug for this thing was Biopresence Human DNA Trees. It's an ongoing project entangling and intertwining different DNAs, moral codes, ethic values, social issues, and open source wetware. So yeah, that's quite a mouthful. And we kind of try to break it down in smaller bits. So as I kind of hinted before, the kind of code we're working with is DNA, and the kind of, I'm sure everybody's aware, knows it, but the kind of interesting things, everybody knows like the A, D, C, G, the 4 bases, and most people know that those 4 bases are written in 3-letter words in the DNA, and those 3-letter words make up the amino acids, which make the proteins, which make all the rest. So from the codes to the organism goes through this. But the interesting thing is, you got 4 times 4 times 4, 64 possible permutations of those base triplets, but you only got 20 amino acids, and the mapping of the base triplets to the amino acids is called the genetic code, how this correlates. But I was told a code like this is called degenerate, because in most of the cases, 2 or more base triplets stand for 1 amino acid. So we might come back to something like this. It's also called, yeah.
So what we are doing is to create a tree which contains human DNA inside tree's DNA itself, without affecting gene of the tree. So the result, the tree which contains human DNA, for example, your grandmother or myself, will grow normally as any other tree on the street. You can see it outside. So the project started that idea of that how can we communicate with the idea of memory of the person, but without and how can we tell how the member of the family can pass the story of the person, for example, my grandmother's. So we came up with the idea of, okay, so what if we some people said when we die we wanted to be buried underneath the tree, and we thought why not inside rather than underneath. And also there's an expression in Japanese, sakura tree is a cherry blossom tree. We said the reason why the cherry blossom is pink is because people buried underneath and they suck the blood of the person, so the flower become pink. So we got the idea of, okay, so let's try to make it in real.
I think the important bit of this is, if I put my DNA into a tree and I die, but part of me is still alive in every single cell of the resulting tree, and of course it can also be read back, and so it's a sort of strange storage, preservation, mirroring yourself. Yeah.
And also, for example, in UK, there's a problem with the space for cemeteries, because they just running out of the ground space. So we thought if this tree can be instead of the cold tombstones, but the tree can be create a park, and which became a real memorial park, and so that can be alternative solutions for this problem. And the magazine called Science Online, it said a project can be called transgenic tombstones. So that's yeah.
Yeah, so this is again a genetic code, and I won't go into every detail, but I think the most important thing is that Can you hear me like this as well? I think you can. So for example, the first phenylalanine has 2 base triplets, and we assign either 0 or 1 to one of them, and by creating this difference, we can write a binary number there, which can be potentially very long.
We can hear you, but the people are listening to
The people,
stream.
Okay, they cannot. So I have to speak like that then. So, yes. So we until now we're at the stage of trying it. We tried it manually in very small fragments, but it can be done on a very long piece as well, and kind of we didn't really reach the limits of how much can be stored yet, because there's another step. There's a kind of sort of manifold step where you can recreate a hypothetical DNA sequence out of the amino sequence, and then you can apply it again and again. And I won't go into this now, but there's something there, and yeah, I think everything is clear. That's the way it works.
Can you explain that a little bit?
No, it's clear. I mean, come on. I think everybody here should understand. No, I will. Please come to me and we'll explain it later. It takes some time. Yeah, but it's interesting, the kind of technology and everything, and we're very excited about it. But our real intention for actually doing this is, what kind of effects can a tree like this have on our life in the future? I mean, how would those trees be treated? If you have your ancestor in your garden, would you just cut it down and make a table? I don't know, or yeah. I mean, I wonder where Granny Smith comes from. It takes some time. There's an apple called Granny Smith, and if you would put the DNA of Grandmother Smith into an apple tree, and then we grow it, and then you can eat it, and every single cell of the apple is Granny Smith as well. So that's.
Sorry, we forgot to say that we work with the artist called Joe Davids from MIT. So the method that we chose is actually collaboration with him.
Can you show any actual tree?
Well, that's another thing. That's the big difference between all the other projects here and ours. We are not able to run it on an old computer, but we are in the process of making things. We recently got some funding, so we have to start a biotech company which will sell those trees as products once the legal issues are resolved. So this can get quite interesting, because I think they are not genetically modified, because only the DNA is modified, but the genes are not. But I think governments don't think like that, so we'll have to wait and see.
So you don't have any tree yet?
No. But soon.
Okay, let's see. Because this project has been advertised worldwide.
Yes, yes.
It's some ugly British company trying to screw up genes of humans or something like that.
This was actually our, I can say our final project at the RCA was a press release. And because of this, we got this kind of coverage, because we thought it's important to kind of get the idea out and see how people react to it. And we got a lot of letters, I don't know, especially from elderly ladies who say, yeah, I'm a woodcarver and I really want to become a tree when I die. And another one, I promise you not to die until you can make it. And so it kind of really touches the nerves, and we're not quite sure. Well, there's other things to explore.
And of course we got some negative reaction also. When we were doing project in a college, someone write a letter to our professor saying, please stop your student, because your student got no idea what we are doing. So this kind of that's actually the purpose, the most important things for us to raise the questions and let's talk to people. So that's why the press release was just the result that we chose.
Okay, and whose genes are you going to put in the first tree?
we are thinking it's gonna be hours, 1 hour, so even
Okay.
put together.
And would you later cut the trees or eat apples out of them?
Well, I hope, for example, the dog wouldn't piss on my tree, but that's, I don't know, it's gonna be not my choice. I think it's gonna be who's gonna look after, who's gonna own my tree after my death. So.
But do you still have any hesitation about doing that?
No, at all.
Do you need live cells to do it?
Well, the process quickly. You just sequence human DNA. At this stage now, we just take the essential bits, like that every human is individual, you know, because as you know, to sequence the whole genome again would cost $3 billion and would take 20 years. So we kind of concentrate on the viable things, but I think this doesn't make a difference.
So you can use cells from someone who is no longer alive.
Yeah.
You just have samples.
Yeah, you basically have to sequence a whole piece of DNA.
So it's not so much an issue if the grandmother dies before you're ready.
No, as long as you have the hair or something, yeah, we can make something like this.
Also, you can do the with newborn child, as some people make plant a tree. So it's basically your choice, and you can do with your pet as well if you want.
How did you come up with this idea?
I don't know. It just happened. Or maybe you.
Basically, we are interested in combine like different things. That was just curiosity, and then this just came across. We thought, okay, trees like used as a symbolic of life, and apple is like you know, will you eat like Adam and Eve, etc. So we choose, okay, let's do it with a tree, and let's take the DNA. Actually, we look at the first method we wanted to do was completely different to what we just talked today. We actually had a project for 4 weeks as a student, and as a designer, how can you, or artist, how can you raise a moral and ethical question on the development of biotechnology? So we just, okay, why is biotech? Because we are not educated as a, we're not educated in science. So we obviously look at the DNAs as we are interested in coding. So, and we found that we just look at very visual way because we don't really know what exactly. So we realized the total amount of DNA and of the human and of the tree are very different. That kind of fact. And also the 97% of the DNA is called junk DNA, and no one knows why it's there, what's used for, etc. So we actually thought, okay, then what if we cut off the human DNA into the piece, and put those pieces into junk DNA of the trees? What happens? So we just kind of got it. Then went to scientists and said that's possible. So we thought, wow. Then we started to think about scenarios and what's gonna happen if really this tree gonna exist. And then we met the Joe Davis and we worked together. So it's it's a long story.
Of course. I think that lots of artists working with software or working with network technologies in the early to mid 90s got involved in the whole. I mean, I'm sure I know that you saw it and were part of it as well. The huge economic boom and rolling of artists' work into the promotion of certain technologies, and with the biotech business, certainly in the States, I know that the funding is very much geared towards the same subservient relationship. I've seen a little bit I've seen some artists working with biotechnology and working with gene technologies and the kind of human element of it, or the social effects of it, or the ethical dimensions of it. And the technology usually remains very remote unless you get stuff like, unless you see what's happening to the critical art ensemble with Steve Kurtz at the moment. And I know you went to the DNA DIY Day in Bristol, organised by Cube Cinema and Heath Bunting. That was another example of a biotech hobbyist idea. So I think what a lot of the projects that we've seen here and some of the presentations at the conference have really been about how these dimensions of artistic involvement with technologies become not dependent or subservient or presenting a kind of an organisational layer on top of existing commercial and governmental infrastructures, but actually developing off on strange tangents of interest and really trying to break out of that kind of negative symbiosis of art and economy. And I wonder if there is any hope of ever achieving that, or if you're even interested in it, or if you're interested in that dimension of it, and what other maybe you've seen other reference points, or you've got some intentions to try and emulate that. I know that's a very long question, not really a question, but
So you got 5 seconds.
no. I took up less than half the questions.
Yes, you're right. I mean, that's why we're here, because we think our way of working is maybe similar to most of people here on events like DIY, DNA Day showed this, and we aim that we get into this technology and into this process of making these things ourselves. That's why we the company we will start will be funded by Nesta. Nesta is a kind of strange British National Endowment for Science, Technology and Art, and basically what they did, they just distribute lottery money to strange projects, yeah, and but they just give us some money, and we have to just as a help, and we have to kind of make it work ourselves. So I think there's a connection. I think we're interested in exploring this further.
Yeah, it was quite surprised that Nesta saw it, that it can be happen, and they agree with some of idea with us. Actually, the story of the was, it was competition for make a new business with a graduate, and we thought it would be funny that if Nesta will say, okay, that's also can be product, district can be product, and we can be a company. So we actually, without really hope, like little this much, say cheese, and they got it and they accepted. So we were laughing and it was like the biggest joke, and we thanks to people who does lottery and.
Any more questions?